was a Dave Chappelle show, and we were doing a focus group. And this is when he was a blind KKK, and he was throwing out the N word, and I'm around all these white people, and it was funny, But I didn't know
it was uncomfortable.
If I should be laughing.
Yeah,
it was uncomfortable for me, right?
It was uncomfortable.
And so I did stand up, and I explained to them that Dave Chappelle is a genius in his comedy. He's funny, but I said I think what's happening is that you're missing the context of the joke. He's telling you that racism is taught.
Right.
It's a learned behavior.
We'll discuss race and how it plays a factor, and how we didn't even talk about this topic because we were afraid.
A Black Executive Perspective.
Welcome to a Black Executive Perspective podcast, a safe space where we discuss all matters related to race, especially race in corporate America. I'm your host, Tony Tidbit.
And I'm your co-host, Chris P. Reed.
So again, we are live at WNHU 88.7 on the Richter dial, the University of New Haven podcast studio. We want to thank our partners for being so gracious and allowing the Black Executive Perspective podcast to promote this important topic. So go Chargers, continue to have a good time over the summer.
And also, let's remember to check out our partners at Code M Magazine, whose mission is saving the Black family by first saving the Black man. That is Code M Magazine, Code M Magazine, 2Ms.com.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, definitely check them out. So today we're going to have some fun. All right. In this episode, we're going to chat with Steve Capers, CEO of Knock Knock Comedy Productions, about the rise of the Martha's Vineyard Comedy Fest from a modest gathering to a global cultural phenomenon. Steve will share insights into the festival's beginnings, its growth, and its significant cultural impact. We will also explore key moments, how the festival supports emerging talent, and the creativity and challenges behind making the Martha's Vineyard Comedy Fest a pivotal event in the comedy world.
So I want to set the stage by first giving a little bit about Steve and his antics, right? So Steve Capers founded Knock Knock Comedy Productions and launched his career in comedy while at Martha's Vineyard in 2009. He envisioned a comedy festival spotlighting up-and-coming African-American comedians, leading to the first Martha's Vineyard Comedy Fest in 2010, which starred Damon Williams, Chicago's own, and A.J. Jamal. This event eventually evolved into the Black Comedy Month, that's trademarked by him, in 2017, a prestigious celebration of Black comedy. Before founding this company, Steve worked for Comedy Central and BET, where he organized events with top comedians and promoted iconic shows. In 2003, he began producing comedy events for various organizations, significantly impacting Chicago's comedy scene alongside comedian Damon Williams with their monthly show, Funny First Saturdays. Inspired from a young age by his Tony Award-winning aunt, Virginia Capers, shout out Aunt Viv, Virginia, Steve has been pivotal in promoting African-American comics and talent, offering both laughter and cultural appreciation throughout his work. Steve Capers, welcome to a Black Executive Perspective podcast, sir.
Well, Chris and Tony, it is my pleasure. Thank you for the introduction. I want to really get at it and just talk all about comedy and how African-American humor is something we need to celebrate. We need to continue laughing and just have fun. Sometimes we got to make light of situations just to kind of cope. And it is a good medicine. It's a good remedy. And, the comics I deal with, they turn this whole comedy thing into a great art form. And for me to have a stage, a platform for them to showcase their talent, their originality, their uniqueness, it's unbelievable what they do on Martha's Vineyard every August.
So currently, you and your family, where do you reside? And give me a little bit more about your family connections to Martha's Vineyard.
So we're actually all over the map, so we've lived in Chicago, New Orleans. We currently live in D.C., or really outside of D.C. in Maryland. But we've been vacationing in Martha's Vineyard for the past 20 years. And so with that, the notion of doing comedy came up, as an activity. And we wanted to start it kind of small at first, but it has grown into this awesome experience, this awesome comedy festival. And so, but we've been doing the show for now, this is our 13th year. And we're excited about it. We got big names coming. We have everyone from D.L. Hughley, Sherry Shepherd, Kent Whitley. We have a comedy legend, Marsha Warfield. and so many others. And it's always hosted by one of my best friends, my dear friend, comedian Damon Williams.
Wow, buddy. I mean, I'm excited. Actually, I'm going to be there, Steve. We're heading out July 19th. So I'm going to be there, buddy. So you just got my mouth watering. I know I got a ticket waiting for me. I'm pretty sure I do. I hope so, right?
Boy, I tell you, boy, it's real, ain't it?
All of a sudden, nobody know you, right? Nobody know you, right? But listen, buddy, it sounds so exciting, my man. So real quick, though, tell us a little bit of why did you want to come on a Black Executive Perspective podcast to talk about this topic?
Well, one of the things, this is a safe environment, and I think, the fellowship of Black men getting together, able to talk business, able to talk shop, I think that's very important. And so, we all come from different backgrounds and experiences. So I think what I have is really unique. And what I like to do is provide, maybe inspire, or whatever the case may be, to other Black men and women for that case. But I've been doing this thing for 20 something years now. And so I feel that I have a lot to offer. And hey, this is a great platform to showcase this.
Well, listen, buddy, I really appreciate that. So look, let's get to the nuts and bolts, man. Are you ready to talk about it?
Let's talk about it.
All right, buddy, let's talk about it.
So you know what? One of the things that stuck with me with you, Steve, was it amazed me how much of a historian you have become. And so when you think about the history of African American comedy and humor, what are some of the unique characteristics, some of the unique pioneering figures? How do you see how we are now and where we came from?
Well, I mean, that's a huge title you gave me, a kind of a historian of Black comedy. I looked at D. Militant. He was the one that was carrying the torch for us in terms of documenting. He has a book called How We Laugh, or What Made Us Laugh. I can't remember the title offhand, but it's a great book. It documents everything, and it goes way back to the Burt Williams, and even further than that. I mean, my role model, believe it or not, is a guy named Pat Chappelle. Pat Chappelle was in the early 1900s, who was a promoter, did the whole vaudeville thing, and just taking Black entertainers and traveling throughout the South, segregated South. But yet he did such a great job where he was able to go into mainstream, so he was attracting a white audience as well. And so it's always impressive when you can see someone like a Kevin Hart who can cross over but still be Black, maintain his African American humor, but can be on the main stage. When you look at a Dave Chappelle, those guys are huge, but it's only so many of those. And so what I like to do with my festival is actually provide that platform to showcase the variety, originality, and be a Pat Chappelle, of the 2000s, if you will. But then there's other people like Mary Lindsay, with all jokes aside, in Chicago. Raymond Lambert. These are some guys that, basically built a road for the Bernie Macs of the world, George Wilborn. I mean, that list continues. Everybody kind of got their start in this kind of small 200-seat club. So now that I have the theater, I got the footprint, and Martha's Vineyard is actually going to be the Mecca. That's what we're branding it as, the Mecca of Black comedy. So now this time we kind of control the narrative, if you will, and don't have to wait for Hollywood. We're looking at different platforms like with ShareZo, where we can put our content on there and be worldwide. So there's so much we're trying to do and so much to do. and people like you giving, BEP giving me the opportunity to talk on this platform just helps us spread the word.
So, Steve, let me ask you this. I mean, number one, thank you for that, my friend. When we think about it, the African American has been pivotal in the history of comedy, right? And you just talked about it, vaudeville. You named a few individuals that I'm not even aware of, but we can talk about Moms Mabley. We can talk about Red Fox. We can talk about, Bill Cosby. Richard Pryor. We can just keep going and on and on. And you mentioned today, Dave Chappelle and Kevin Hart and others, right? Talk to us real quickly a little bit about how the styles have changed from the times when from vaudeville to where we are in 2024 when it comes to African American comedy.
So back in the day, you probably were actually more talented because you sang, you danced, and you told jokes. So, when the era of Dick Gregory came about, that's when you stood flat-footed. and that's when you had to have some delivery. And so there's different styles in terms of, like, I could go to so we could look at Dick Gregory. His style is very political. He's intentional with trying to, not only tickle your funny bone, but actually hit your heart and hit your mind. So that's kind of more that intellectual comedy. But then you got more slapstick, or you can have that, what they call that raw comedy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different styles. What we have at Martha's Vineyard is something we call cultivating comedy. We're here to uplift. I don't censor comics, but what I do tell them is that they can't use any derogatory terms. So you're not calling women bees, and you're not using N words and stuff like that, unless it's part of the joke. So we're not Christian comedy, we're not corporate comedy, we're just straight funny without having to be using any derogatory terms. But now with the internet, you got so many people who are doing skits. So it's almost like we're coming back to the vaudeville era, But stand-up comedy is where my heart is, and that's where I look at it as a true art form to make people laugh.
Got it, buddy. So look, we're talking art form. You just went through from slapstick to stand-up, to political. So now let's talk about decades, my brother. 80s
Okay.
and 90s, right? Where do you stand in terms of, the best decade for comedy?
Well, the best decade for me, I would say it was the late 80s and early 90s. That's when I kind of came into the comedy scene. Having the opportunity to be in Chicago, at all jokes aside, that was just something you did. It was kind of a cultural thing, because you were able to see, and this was at the time, the height of the Bulls, so you could see Michael Jordan, you could see a Scottie Pippen, a Dennis Rodman at these clubs. So it was kind of like, who can you see? But while doing that, I was able to see different comedians come, the Lavelle Crawfords of the world, the Chris Rocks of the world, before they became big names. And so, it's just one of those things where, wait, I'm almost kind of blanked out. What your
No,
question?
no, no,
Yeah,
no.
the
So
second
look,
part to that question.
yeah. So 80s, 90s. So look,
Oh, 80s,
Eddie
90s, yeah.
Murphy, Robert Townsend. I think of them more the 80s type,
Mm-hmm.
stuff, right? And then you had 90s where you had D.L. Hughley. You had a bunch of those
Mm-hmm.
individuals come up and take it. So I was just like, from that time frame, what do you think was the best time from a comedy standpoint?
Well, this is kind of say who's the best ball player ever, or team. Is it the Boston Celtics back in the day, or I mean, things have changed. But I tell you, I had an interview the other day with Marsha Warfield, and one of the questions that we had for her was, if it wasn't for you, would there be a Tiffany Haddish? If it wasn't for you, would there be a Whoopi Goldberg? If it wasn't for you, would it be a Monique? And so, or some more. I mean, the names continued. And her humbling response was, if it wasn't me, it was going to be somebody else. I was like, whoa, that's deep. But, we're looking at you as a comedy legend, and you had to, she's gay, so she had more obstacles, but yet she was still able to get on stage, stand flat-footed, and make people laugh. So, but just hearing her humble opinion, because it just depends on what generation you grew up in. I mean, because Eddie Murphy was funny. No, not was, but is funny. Uh, Martin Lawrence, funny. So all of these guys have done movies. They've done sitcoms. So it's kind of hard, but I know I'm most familiar with the 80s and 90s. That was my era. Had a good time. And then in the early 2000s, stand-up comedy for African Americans kind of took a drop because there were limited comedy clubs. So, so now what's happening is comedians had to create their own space. So they were renting out their own rooms and trying to promote. And, with comedians, they just want to be artists. They don't really want to be out there promoting. They don't want to be organizing. They don't want to do any of that. So someone like me, that's where I come in. And so my relationship with Damon Williams is that he's the face of my festival. I'm behind the scenes, so we're not stepping on anybody's toes. They come to see him. They're not necessarily coming to see me. So, from an operational standpoint, I do an excellent job. And as a comedian, artist, Damon, has that front row. So, I do have favorite comics, but I just don't have one, So, again, what's the best era? I mean, it's hard to tell. But Dick Gregory back in the 60s was tough. Then you got Flip Wilson. You had Moms Mabley back then, Pig Meat Martin. I mean, it's just it's hard. And I'm kind of give you my political answer, basically. Not trying to pigeonhole anybody.
Let me ask you a different perspective on the same question. So obviously, when I was young, you had stand-up specials. You had Damon Williams and or Damon Wayans, excuse me, Damon Wayans and Eddie Murphy and folks like that, and they would do their hour-long joints, and you would see it on HBO and different things like that. And then there was the evolution of Def Comedy Jam and Comic View, right? And now you have
Hmm.
more comics top to bottom that you were able to see per capita, and that they went through the crucible and made their way onto the mainstream, and then that kind of dropped off. Was in my opinion or in my history, that seemed to be the heyday because you just every night you turned on Miss Laura was cooking in the kitchen and you had all these
Hmm.
people, whether it be D.L. Hughley, you had so many different people that hosted it. Even my man Gary Owens, you had folks that could get up there
Yeah.
and you could see them on TV. And you didn't have to go into the back rooms or the clubs and all this other stuff. Was that good for comedy, or did that turn out to be bad for the black comedians because for whatever reason that didn't maintain itself like I thought it would?
So when we started getting TV exposure like that kind of eliminated the Black Comedy Club, because what's happening
Mm-hmm,
now is that these guys got their visibility, and so now they can sell out theaters.
mm-hmm,
Now they can sell out arenas. So the small guy kind of got pushed aside.
mm-hmm,
But now you have the internet.
mm-hmm,
So now you got so many different digital platforms for people to showcase. I mean, whether it's YouTube, and then if you look at someone like Netflix, they've done a great job of doing a lot of stand-up comedy, specials.
absolutely, absolutely.
Then you got Peacock. I mean, there's Hulu. I mean, it's just so many different avenues. But now, again, what's the pinnacle? Is Netflix the pinnacle with streaming services? Everybody wants a Netflix special.
So, when I came in or when I started thinking about being cognizant of black comics, we talk about the Eddie Murphy Delirious, we talk about the Damon Wayans, The Last Stand, and these type of specials that were hour long specials, even the Chris Rock stuff from a long time ago. But to me, and I know you had your own perspective of the heyday, it was when Def Comedy Jam and Comic View, when you had the Gary Owens and DL Hughley roasting people on the stage and that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
That seemed to be when it really picked up and started to move. Where every day I could turn in and see somebody beyond the Apollo. What did you think that translated to what you guys do and how that affected the ecosystem of Black comics?
Yeah, so when you look at the comic views of the world, the Def Comedy Jams, they were getting all this exposure. It was almost kind of like a marketing tool for these comics. So then what happened, they kind of got too big for the small comedy club,
Mm-hmm.
because they could sell out theaters, they could sell out arenas. And so uh, it was a good thing, but it was also a bad thing. But now you have the internet. So now you have different platforms. So that's the beauty of it. So you do have the Netflix, you do have the Hulu, you do have something like Sharezone, which is a black owned streaming service,
Okay.
which is everything comedy. So it's just interesting how things change, but they kind of stay the same. But the thing, pretty much your material is exploited, because
Mm-hmm.
once you put it out there, somebody can look at it and try to do a variation of your joke, and so now it's tougher on stand-up comedians. They have to be original. They have to be the first to come out with something, so they can claim it as their joke. But I mean, there's everybody pretty much kind of tells the same joke. It's just your delivery, it's your style, and it's your comfort level. So,
Right.
but yeah, but it's still amazing. It's still exciting, and so I look
Right.
forward to whatever comes, our way through digital technology.
And my friend, you spoke about it earlier. You've built up the Martha Vineyard Comedy Fest from
Mhm.
nothing, right? A place where the upper class go and vacation and play golf and the whole nine yards. And now it's a cultural phenomenon. Okay, where now people go and while they're on vacation, they can laugh, they can have fun, but they can also meet new comics, or they can meet some of the people that have been around for a long time that they may have had a hard time being able to go to a club to see. Now they can see them here in Martha's Vineyard. So tell us a little bit, And we're gonna play a clip of one of your comedians. But tell us a little bit how you got this off the ground, and what was the vision in terms of where it started to where it is today.
Well, the thing is, I wanted this festival to be embedded into the culture of Martha's Vineyard. I mean, I wasn't there to make any kind of transaction to get rich fast kind of thing. I had a purpose. And so when I was at Comedy Central, I'll tell you this quick little story. It was a Dave Chappelle show, and we were doing a focus group. And this is when he was a blind KKK, and he was throwing out the N-word, and I'm around all these white people. And it was funny, but I didn't know
it was uncomfortable.
Laughing.
Yeah,
it was uncomfortable for me, right?
It was uncomfortable.
And so I did stand up, and I explained to them that, Dave Chappelle is a genius in his comedy. He's funny. But I said, I think what's happening is that you're missing the context of the joke. He's telling you that racism is taught.
Right.
It's a learned behavior. But you guys are laughing at his throwing, the N-word. And why does he have to do that? So if he was doing a skit where he's using derogatory terms about your race, your sexuality, or something like that, how would you feel? And so, weeks later, we all got laid off from Comedy Central. And so
I hope that story, I hope that soliloquy.
I was going to say, basically you got everybody got.
How would you get laid off?
I got everybody got, yes. It's my fault, right? No, we had done our job, and we exceeded our goals. There was no more growth for us for Comedy Central. But so one of the things I did was like, well, shoot. I know all these comedians. Let me start my own company. And I wanted to make sure that I wasn't being a hypocrite. So that's why I came up with this cultivating comedy. Again, just no derogatory terms. But, we could be edgy. We could be a little corporate here and there, but it's all about the culture. And so that's where we are. And so when you show clips of Alonzo Bolden, whoever, you'll see that he gets into the culture. So we're embedded in the culture of Martha's Vineyard, and we're not there for any kind of transactional type of scenery. And right now we're celebrating 13 years, and I look forward to another 20, 30, 40 years of this.
Well, yeah. Well, let's play that clip. Let's play that clip that we have, and then we'll explore kind of how you are able to incorporate that into the next evolution of where Black comics are going.
We've come up with a vaccine. We are going to open up the world. And they're like, no. What? What the hell do you mean no? They're not taking the vaccine. What? Why aren't they taking the vaccine? Well, they said it'll make them magnetic. What the? How do you argue with someone who says, I ain't taking the vaccine, it'll make me magnetic? What do you say to that? I tell you what I say, you're right, you shouldn't take the vaccine. Yeah, for the rest of us, we trying to thin the herd. And if we can get rid of the anti-magnetic first, the world will be a better place.
So it's interesting because, obviously we a little bit away from the pandemic, but hot button topics, the whole essence of some of the greatest comedians was taking the pain and reshaping it to find a bit of, light in it at some point, right? Because it's always going to be struggle. It's always going to be pain. And we got to find ways to kind of forge through it. In that regard, do you feel like that is still as prevalent on the internet and some of these services and platforms and things? Because a lot of it is more, in my opinion, not as much of that social commentary, but it's just a bit of buffoonery at times.
So you need variety. So because comedy is very subjective. So you like people who like it raw and dirty. You got some who like it Christian, some who like it clean. So, we embrace everything. And that's one of the reasons why I trademarked Black Comedy Month. Because, we celebrating African-American humor. And pain can come in any way. And so how an artist projects it, you got to give them the creativity to do so. But, Alonzo Bolden, the clip we just heard, he's more intellectual. He talks about politics. He talked about something that happened worldwide, nationwide, and everybody can identify with what, whether you're on this side of the vaccine or that side. He's still able to throw it out there and make someone who wasn't vaccinated laugh at themselves,
Right.
for whatever their reason is. So sometimes you throw it in their faces and see how they react. But he's such a pro that he's been doing it for 20, 30 years. So he's nothing but laughs.
You know, it was I was dying laughing when I saw it because it was realistic too, right? To your point, there was
Yeah.
people that was like it was going to make me magnetic. Okay,
Right.
he was just speaking the truth, right? But you just got finished
Hmm.
saying something about national, August being Black Comedy Month, right? And it's a campaign
Hmm.
that you're pushing out. Talk to us a little bit about that. What's the essence of pushing or making August Black Comedy Month, and then also what are some of the key events and things that's going on in Martha's Vineyard that highlight August as Black Comedy Month.
So basically, how we came about it is we were sitting in the kitchen, a bunch of comedians that were performing at our festival, and we just happened to talk, and I said, "What about Black Comedy Month? You got Pride Month, you have Hispanic Month, you got this, you got that. So you have Black Music Month." And I was surprised no one had trademarked Black Comedy Month. So basically, I did my little search and what have you, and saw it was available, and went through the process, and here we are. But the thing was, I needed some fuel for the festival, and some sort of marketing tactic that can help push and drive. But I wanted to be inclusive with promoters, Black comedy clubs, comedians, the whole nine. So it wasn't just for me.
Mm,
I wanted to extend it and open it up, worldwide. And Black Comedy Month can extend to Africa. I mean, it could extend
Mhm.
to Europe.
right.
So basically, what I was trying to do is like, let's take this whole month of August, which is when the festival is, and really celebrate African American humor, and just promote the variety of talent that's out there. And make a little bit of change off of it. I just did some research recently. What was it? Hispanic Month? They generated like $20 million. So, we could spread that across the United States with Black Comedy Month. So,
Mhm.
uh, that was my effort.
And any so talk a little bit about some of the key programs and events that happen
Right.
that you're going to put together for Black Comedy Month.
Well, basically, it's the Martha's Vineyard Comedy Fest. That's the fuel that we use Black Comedy Month for. But we're also using it to share with a streaming service called ShareZone, which is considered everything comedy. So we're helping them promote and get comedians and content creators to put on their platform. Um, but it was Kevin Hart and Heartbeat. They were actually interested in using the campaign too to launch a particular movie they're trying to push in
Mhm.
late August. So it's just you know everyone can use it basically, but they got to come through me to make
They,
sure everything's cool.
you got the
Right.
trademark, my brother, right? You got
Man,
the
Right,
stamp.
absolutely.
You got the
Switchboard. You
stamp.
you the switchboard operator. Right, right, right.
Basically, I'm just switching it off. Right,
That's right.
exactly.
That's right. Let me ask you a question because we all Midwest boys. I'm sorry, I was gonna say we both, but I forgot about Tony Detroit all day every day. So
Right.
how did man listen, when I hear Martha's Vineyard,
Mhm. Mhm.
I have a different thought in my head. I think of orchards and whatnot, or grapes or something different than what y'all on. I'm not to
Uh-huh.
do. I'm not to do. So how did the Martha's Vineyard become so embedded from a cultural perspective? Give me a little game, a little history. People like myself that just don't know no better. Educate us a little bit
Mhm.
on Martha's Vineyard, how it attracted you, why, and what made you put your stake in the ground there and say this is where Black folks will come and giggle.
Well, I was sort of like you, Chris. I was kind of familiar with Martha's Vineyard, but I really wasn't.
Right.
And so it was my brother and my sister-in-law who were vacationing one year out there. They liked it so much they purchased a house. So then what they did, they invited us, and then we invited friends, and our friends invited friends, and the friends' friends invited friends. So it just kind of
Okay.
grew.
Okay.
So I already had a built-in audience before I really started this whole comedy festival. And so, as I continued to vacation there, the family go there every year. I started learning a little bit more about the history of Martha's Vineyard in terms of African Americans,
Mhm.
and there's so many African American homeowners there, and
Mhm.
then there was African American businesses. So then you got the whole Inkwell Beach, where that was the beach that was
Okay.
segmented to us, back in the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
So it has a lot of historical significance. And then, just good people, man,
Yeah.
just started popping there, and you start to see this like upper middle class to upper class African Americans who are proud. They everyone from entertainers to doctors to lawyers and whoever else. And they come to have a good time. So
Right.
we're there to provide entertainment for them. And whoop, there it is.
Buddy,
Right.
and
Yeah.
like you, my friend, and Chris, no different. I've been going for 20 years. What is Martha's Vineyard? Some friend of mine dragged me out. I stayed on his. They had a house in Chappaquiddick. I slept on the couch for the weekend, and I remember taking the ferry back. And I text my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and I said, she said, "How was it?" I said, "From now on, we're gonna come to Martha's Vineyard." And we've been coming to Martha's Vineyard for 20 years. The kids grew up there.
Wow.
That's the vacation spot. We go there for 2 weeks. And I think one of the things that Steve, you can tell Steve definitely knows his history. When you go there, you learn the African American history. There's an African American heritage trail that you can take, and it'll show you how African Americans came there. It started off more of as a religious retreat, right?
Yep.
Where people would come to be able to celebrate Christ, and they would have these different religious retreats. And then black people started buying up houses. And buddy, next thing that's one of the old fears. Like, we let one come in, they gonna bring everybody
Right.
else.
You ain't lying. You ain't like reverse gentrification.
Ray and them are about to come.
That's right.
buddy,
That's right. There goes the neighborhood.
And but Martin Luther King was there. I mean, you get a sense of the history in Martha's Vineyard, right? And it's upper middle class, but it doesn't even matter. People come from all over the country, and people also come from England and stuff to that nature. They have a map in one of these stores. Steve, I'm pretty sure you saw it. I don't know if it's in the I forget what store it is, but they have a map, and they put these little dots in the map of where people come to Martha's Vineyard. And obviously, there's a lot of people come from the East Coast, but you'll see all throughout the 50 states, people come for the summertime.
Yeah, if you look at our database, from people who come to our show, you see LA, San Francisco. I've had Toronto. I've had France and England, South Africa. So, we attract. I consider ourselves a global comedy festival.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It seems to be based on just the energy that y'all brothers is giving off, and you can just tell by the smiles and things like that. In my mind, in the recess of my mind, it's a hoity-toity freaknik, right? So I appreciate just getting this game from y'all, and I'm gonna have to make my way out. I'm gonna have to make it happen now. So y'all done got me
Hey,
excited.
Steve,
I think
I've
I sold it to
invited the
missus, right?
brother. I invited him. I even, look, I'm going to pay homage just like how I came on. I said, he can come sleep on the couch.
He
All right?
did.
Come
He
for a
did.
weekend.
Well, yeah,
You come for a
you got to break
weekend.
them in slow.
You got to break him in.
slow.
You come, let him taste it a little bit, want to stay, and then you kick him out and say, bro, next year you get your own house. All right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. Each one teach one. Each one teach
I
one.
mean, I'll tell you an interesting story too. I remember one year my festival. I think it was year 3 or 4, and there's the ferry issue. You got to bring your car on. If you're gonna bring your car, you got to make your reservation early. So I made mine a little later than normal. So I couldn't get in. I had to come in the day before, just so I can have my car. And I didn't have a place to stay. I was just gonna sleep in my car. But you start talking to people, and before you know it, they said, "Man, where you going?" I was like, "Well, I'm just going to chill for a little bit." They're like, "Man, come over, stay at our house." I mean, that's how good the people are
But
right
it's so
there. So,
friendly. People are, you meet people from around the country, everybody, and it's one of my pet peeves. The easiest thing to say to somebody first thing in the morning is good morning, right? And when you walk around Martha's Vineyard, there's not a person that doesn't say good morning. I mean, but it's just very relaxing, very friendly. But more importantly, you can have a lot of fun and you can laugh too. So, Steve, we're going to wrap up, my man. So, look, I mean, buddy, you sharing your story here, telling us, the epiphany you got when you was at Comedy Central, you wanted to create something. You wanted to, live by your code and making it clean and making it fun, but also letting people be themselves and let them do whatever type of comedy they want to do, as long as it felt within your expectations. And you built a powerhouse, my brother. Talk somebody right now who's watching this or listening to this, who may be in their closet practicing to be a comedian, or who may want to, have the aspiration of owning a production company and being able to build out something that you've built out and have comedians come from all over the world, what type of advice would you give them, my brother?
First thing I would say is that, you got to be patient. You have to build a business. Uh, Rome wasn't built in a day. You got to be patient. You're going to make mistakes. You got to be okay with making mistakes. But how fast can you rebound? When I first started, I was my own website designer. I was my own accountant. I was my own lawyer. I was trying to do everything.
There's everybody. Yeah, exactly.
Wear many hats. I was trying to do PR. So, and I still wear many hats. Now I'm cleaning bathrooms and I'm sweeping floors at the theater and making popcorn. But but that's part of the role. You got to get down and dirty with it, but you got to be patient. Associate with positive people, like with BEP. Because you need the encouragement, and there's going to be times where you're going to be down, but as long as you're around positive people and people who have resources, that kind of thing, you'll be fine. But it is a journey. It's not a marathon. Not a sprint. And so that's one thing I would say. Two, you got to live your dream. You don't ever want to live in regret, saying, "Man, I wish I would have done that." And if one door closes, another one opens. Like you said, the epiphany with Comedy Central, we got laid off, and I said, well, maybe I can do, what Comedy Central is doing. I was doing events with them. Let me do it on my own. And so it was a mind shift that I experienced. And so, again, associating yourself with positive people and people who are like-minded. Another thing is just do your best and be honest with yourself. Did you do your best today? And if the answer is no, just know there's always room for growth. Oh, and then maybe one day, you can start be the next big thing next to the Martha's Vineyard Comedy Fest.
There you go.
Right, absolutely. One of the things we pride ourselves on is making sure we shout out the misses and their influence. Can you give us something that your a young lady inspired you to keep on keeping on with this, and anything that helped you get to this point?
Yeah. So at this particular time, I thought I was the expert in comedy, because I had been doing shows across the country, and it was her idea to do a show here. And I was like, no, it's not going to work. It's going to be too expensive. You don't know comedy like I know comedy. I had the whole male ego kind of thing going on, and it just kind of clicked. So let me see what this can happen. And so, long story short, here we are 13 years later. What's her idea, but it was my initiative. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. That makes a great
behind every good man.
Right.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Right? That's awesome. That's awesome. So listen, my friend, tell us how BEP can repay you. How can we help? How can a Black Executive Perspective podcast help Steve Capers?
Well, I can always say, continue to promote the festival and all the social media outlets. But, more important, let's create a partnership where we help each other out. It's not just a single-sided thing where BEP is going to do everything for me. I want to be able to, support you as well. And so, continue with podcasting, come to the festival, meet some more people. We can do it all. So, but I appreciate just, again, being on this platform, having an opportunity to present, and hopefully I'm able to inspire a future promoter, or entrepreneur.
Well, buddy, you know what? You inspired us. Really happy that you came and shared your story today. It's fabulous. And you epitomize, you talked about it. One door closes, an idea came, you ran to that idea. You had to do everything, wear all the different hats, but you built something, slowly but surely. So you can count on the partnership here from BEP. I'm going to be there this summer. We're definitely going to get Chris, over eventually, right? We'll get him
eventually.
Over. Yeah, we'll get him over.
Absolutely.
We'll get him over, right? But more importantly, my man, we're looking to cement this partnership, and we wish you nothing but mad success. We're going to promote August being Black Comedy Month, we're going to promote about the festival that you have in Martha's Vineyard. And when I come, I'm going to definitely bring some peeps with me to come and, fulfill and sit back and laugh and enjoy, and at least to get to hang out with you and see everything that you put together, my brother. So we want to thank you for participating and being a guest on the Black Executive Perspective podcast.
Well, it's been my pleasure. And just one more thing. I just want to send a shout out to Code M Magazine, with Bilal. So he's a partner of ours too.
And we're gonna see he's gonna be there too. See, everybody's gonna be there except Chris. We gotta get Chris there. Bilal's gonna be there, do it. And hey, look, Bilal's the one that set us up, right? So it just shows how all of us, work together and meet, and that's the beauty of family, and that's how the African American community started in Martha's Vineyard, right? It was just that same type of homage. So again, my brother, we thank you, love you a lot, and I'll see you in a few weeks.
Love you back.
So I think it's time for
Tony's Tidbit.
So the tidbit is we always have a tidbit, an inspirational quote based on what we talked about today. So the tidbit today is, Black comedy isn't just about making people laugh. It's about telling stories that resonate, educate, and liberate. Okay? And my brother here, he's built up a promotion, a business of comedians that's coming in, making people laugh, but they're also doing those other things as well. So again, we want to thank our brother, Steve Capers from Knock Knock Productions. So, hey, everyone, you don't want to miss Need to Know with Nsinga this Thursday. Dr. Nsinga Burton on the Black Executive Perspective podcast, where Dr. Burton delves into timely, crucial topics that shape our community and world. You're going to tune in. You're going to gain unique insights and deepen your understanding of issues that matter. You don't want to miss it. This Thursday, check it out. Need to Know by Dr. Nsinga. So again, I hope you enjoyed another episode of a Black Executive Perspective podcast, The Rise to Cultural Prominence, Martha's Vineyard's Comedy Fest story with the CEO, CEO Stephen Capers of Knock Knock Productions. So I think it's now time for what, Chris?
It's the call to action, Tony. We got to always remember to incorporate less. Less is our call to action. It means learn, empathize, share, and stop. Learn. Educate yourself on racial and cultural nuances to help others get there with you.
Exactly. And then after you learn, you should be, E stands for empathy, right? Now you should be able to empathize from what your fellow colleagues and friends go through because you've learned more about them.
And the S is for share. Share your insights. Don't hide it, divide it, right? Share your insights and enlighten others to what you've just become enlightened to.
And the other S stands for stop. You want to stop discrimination as it walks into your path. So if you hear grandma at the Thanksgiving table say something inappropriate, you say, "Grandma, we don't talk like that." And you let grandma know not to say that. So if everyone incorporates less, LESS, we'll build a more understanding world, and everyone will be able to see the change that they want to see. And guess what? We saw some change today, some loose change from a man, Steve Capers here. All right? So pick some of that up, right? So again, we really appreciate you joining another episode of a Black Executive Perspective podcast. You can watch our next episode wherever you get your podcast, and follow us on our socials of LinkedIn, X, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at a Black Exec. For our fabulous guest, the CEO of Knock Knock Productions, Steve Capers. For the co-host with the most, Chris P. Reed. Thanks for keeping it real and funny, my boy. The woman behind the glass that makes all this happen, our producer, Noel Miller. I'm Tony Tidbit. We talked about it. We laughed about it today, and we love you, and we're out.
A Black Executive Perspective.